Welcome back. Well, yes, we're focusing on security situation in the country. But before we introduce our guest, don't forget that there was this UN special rapporteur who did issue a report about the security situation in the country. And if we could go through some of what was said, which the government eventually responded to. Well, should I say that that preliminary statement released by the UN Special Rapporteur, as you can see there, saying Nigeria is pressure cooker of internal conflict and generalized violence that must be addressed urgently, with issues like poverty and climate change also adding to the crisis. The overall situation that I encountered in Nigeria gives rise to extreme concern. But the President's Senior Special Assistant on Media and Publicity, Mr. Gabasho, did also respond saying, "We are saddened that the rapporteur did not address intra-ethnic conflicts and cattle rustling as key elements in herder-farmer conflicts. In Benue State, for instance, the Tiv-Jukun conflict and the kidnapping is a major problem. We're glad that local communities have fully realized this, and scholars with a strong motivation for peace and stability in their communities and the nation are trying to address the problem." So ignoring the salient issues would not help to solve the problem. If you're going to address violence and general insecurity in Nigeria, incidents everywhere should be part of the narrative. Not addressing this might make it easier to blame the federal government, but national peace and security is community-based and a collective responsibility. Arrests, prosecution, and locking people up are only small parts of national security and safety. That's a quote from Gabasho. Well, this morning, we're joined by two gentlemen to weigh in on the ongoing matter. We've got Professor Zachary Gundu, who is a professor of archaeology, Ahmadu Bello University. He joins us in the studio here this morning. And we also do have Mr. Lawrence Alobi, former Commissioner of Police here in the FCT. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, Prof, how do you relate with these statements coming through from the UN rapporteur and the response from Gabasho?
Yeah, I think...
Okay, let me get Prof, then
okay,
you will just respond to Prof.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think the first thing I want to say is that the UN rapporteur, Special Rapporteur to Nigeria, Agnes Callamard, is a very experienced and competent person. She is the one who went into Turkey to investigate the killing of Jamal Khashoggi. And she did a very thorough work there. Of course, the Saudis denied, but every person knows that they were implicated in the killing of that fellow. So we are talking about somebody who is very competent, who came into this country and stayed for 12 days, talked to a lot of people, virtually all stakeholders, and has written a preliminary report saying that the security situation in this country is very bad, saying that government is not doing enough, saying that Nigerians are not happy with the security situation in the country. They are not happy with what the army is doing and what the police is doing. Actually indicting government for some of these killings, whether it is Boko Haram, whether it's the Hedda farmer conflict, whether it is IPOD, whether it is the Islamic movement of Nigeria. So the report is a general indictment. And of course, when UN rapporteurs go into a country, what they do is that when they are going out, they give a preliminary report. The preliminary report is supposed to give the country an opportunity and other stakeholders to input the report so that it can be updated, so that corrections can be made, so that all perspectives will be considered. Next year in June, she's going to give a final report. So my expectation was that a government that is responsible, a government that is not a rogue government, would take this report in good faith.
Okay. Mr. Alubi, how should we take this report?
Yeah, look, I agree with the Prof that the government should take this report in good faith because this woman did investigative journalism and she's found to be competent and capable, that she has the capacity. And you see, Section 14B of the Constitution provides that security and the well-being of the citizens shall be the prime purpose of government. And when there's insecurity, the government should be concerned. And if someone is now coming out to point out to government areas where there are lapses, and this government is accountable. Where when you dance, you don't see your back. The government, people, international, global community are watching us. Nigerians are watching us, and it's even the government is not happy that there's killing here and there. That's why they're taking action to ensure that all these violent crimes are being checkmated. I think it's left for the government to analyze the report and see which area have they not done well and which area have they done well. Will also help both security agencies to re-strategize and redirect their operational strategies to ensure that we do the needful. In fact, security in this country is, everybody is aware, the security agencies are actually being overwhelmed because there are so many factors that create this problem, that which are not even being caused by the security agencies themselves. Like poverty, for instance, is not caused by security agencies. Unemployment is not caused by security agencies. The climate change is not caused by security agencies. Our get rich quick syndrome, the greed of our politicians is not caused by security agencies. But they are now compelled to manage this situation.
Are they compelled, or isn't it their duty? Because
No.
What happens to Intel? They're supposed to get intel about what's going to happen and advise government.
The society also is supposed to help in ensuring that these issues are being handled. But the society is now one creating the problem. You know, this unemployment, poverty, and so forth, all these things are not caused by security agencies.
Well, when these things occur, it is the expectation of security agencies by Nigerians to do the needful. For instance, part of that report is that, according to the report by this special UN rapporteur, it says that many times security forces fail to investigate and prosecute killings.
That is an unfair statement.
You're not taking this one in good faith.
No. This is because when he said they failed to investigate and prosecute, all cases that are reported to the police or security agencies are investigated. You see, you don't say no. You see, this is we know these things. We don't just assume, not just based on assumption. No flawed assumption that they're not doing it. They're doing it. You see, you don't rush investigation.
They are doing it. But what is their constraints?
They're left to constraint in terms of equipment, in terms of manpower, in terms of technology, in terms of funding, in terms of capacity and so forth.
Okay, let Prof.
Yes.
Well, I'm not sure, but let me just say something very quickly. Personally, I agree with that aspect of the report. There are a lot of things, there's a lot of impunity which the security agencies commit, both the police and the army. And when you asked an institution to probe itself, to reflect, to investigate itself, you have challenges. And in this country, even when they end up doing it, the reports are not in the public domain, and no person is held to account. And I think that is what the rapporteur is saying.
But Prof, who should do the investigation?
Well, if you have complaints about the army, for example, or the police, for example, there's a National Human Rights Commission that can investigate. It is independent enough to investigate. And this UN report says that that commission is actually a plus for us because they are competent and they are going the direction of protecting all
are
of
you
us.
assuming that all the cases have got to do with human rights violations?
Yeah, well, most of them that have got to do with human rights violations can be investigated by that arm. But even if the police or the army themselves would want to investigate allegations against any of their institutions, it is important that once those investigations are completed, two things happen. They are made public so that we know exactly what happened, and then people are held to account.
Well,
People are accountable.
Maybe Mr. Alobi can speak to that in terms of making this public, because this appears to be a vote of no confidence on what the security agencies do to investigate themselves.
You know, perception determines attitude. The way Nigerians perceive security agencies, it has a historical base. Looking at how the security agencies, like the police, for instance, was established in the colonial era, the colonial government established the police to protect the British interests. And that orientation, that perception, that attitude has continued all over time to this present generation.
Why can't we change it?
And that is why we are changing it now to community policing, to democratic policing, to public enlightenment. And that is why you see that today you have human rights decks in all police formations. You have the complaint decks in all police formations. Everybody has a right. You have call number that you can access the police. The police no longer shield itself from the public. The police is accessible by the public, and these complaints are being addressed.
But maybe not in all cases, Mr. Alobi, because according to this report, the report quotes one source and saying it is worse than frustrating for survivors and relatives of victims who time and again take the risk to speak out, to see no progress and no change to their situation. Roll back to page 2, where she talks about a lack of public trust and confidence.
Yeah, like I was trying to explain, is this public trust and lack of public trust and confidence, it has historically based. From the colonial era when the police was established, the British government, the British colonial masters used the police to suppress the people. It's a conquered force that was meant to protect the interests of the British
But we became
government.
independent 59
and that
years
orientation,
ago.
our leaders that also took over from the British masters imbibed the same culture, and the police also, that culture has been on. Even the military came on board. The military also decreed draconic laws, Decree 2, Decree 4, and so forth. The police imbibed colonial policing and the military rights policing. But today we are in a democracy. It has been established, the type of government in the country determines the framework of style of policing. Today, the government, this country, the police is supposed to imbibe democratic policing. Because democratic policing is policing on the people, and policing conformity with democratic norms and values. Those norms like human rights, protection and promotion, rule of law, policing by consent, policing based on the needs of the people, and so forth, and accountability, transparency, and integrity. Okay. These are all the core values of democracy. And that is why the police and other agencies have to train their officers and men to imbibe, to inculcate these core values of democratic values into their operational activities.
Okay, Prof, do you think that's justification enough for the lack of trust and confidence from the people?
Actually, I don't think that 60, 50-something years after independence, we should be blaming everything on the structures of colonialism. Yes, there's an extent to which there has to be blame, but no, we cannot blame everything. That report alludes to the SARS, to the issue of SARS. At a point, the people who were in charge of SARS were accused of killing a lot of people arbitrarily in detention. And people started protesting. And the government set up some form of investigative panel to look at SARS. That report was turned in, I think, about 2018. That is a year from now. And up to now, no person knows what was in that report and what government decided to do with the report, except that they tinkered with SARS. So if government is doing this type of thing, it is not correct. The Army too has set up some investigations following certain complaints. Yet we don't know what was investigated, what their findings are, and they are still accused of killing people in an arbitrary fashion. They are still accused of using excessive force. They are still accused of impunity, like what happened to the members of the Islamic movement, like what happened to iPod, like what happened in Ogoni. If you have security agencies going wide, if you have security agencies acting with impunity, it means that government is not ready to protect the lives of citizens. And any government that cannot protect the lives of even one single individual does not have the right to continue even for one day.
But Mr. Alobi, in terms of what Prof spoke about, the operation standards, the standard practice globally, there's always been that debate in Nigeria about how the security agencies handle such cases when it has to do with quelling either protests or how citizens embark, even if it's a civil demonstration. What do you think of that?
Yeah, you see, the point is that the Public Order Act provides an issue of demonstration. The Constitution also, section 39, 40 provides that the citizens of the Constitution provides that citizens have the right to protest and so forth. But then 45 also gives a limitation. If that protest is going to snowball into violence, a threat to public peace and security, and so forth, or threat to life and property. But you see, we know rights, right? When you see, the point is that in this country we emphasize on our right, human right. We don't ever address issue of our obligations to the society, our obligations to the nation, our obligation to other citizens. My right ends when my right begins to offend your own right. But here we emphasize on our right. When they say right, there's always a corresponding obligation. We know you have the right to go and protest, but then if you're right now by going to protest now, result in you causing mayhem, arson, attacking innocent citizens who are not even the cause of your problem, of your agitation. So the police have a duty to ensure that law and order has to be maintained. That's important of the Police Act. So when citizens and the police work together, for instance, there's going to be a demonstration, and the police are away, right to the police. Let us know the route. Let us know to the extent, because sometimes these protests are hijacked by hoodlums. I know when I was in service, it happened. Even during the 2001 fuel crisis, when Shimole was then president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, we know how to manage them. But then in that case, we need the citizens need to understand that the police is there to maintain law and order. They're not against the citizens for protection, but the citizens have to make sure that they conduct themselves in a manner that is peaceful and does not.
Okay, let's speak to some specific
cases.
cases.
Security.
When there was that protest, which turned awry in about the xenophobic attacks in South Africa, some Nigerians protested. The police had to use, I think one person died as a result of gunshot wounds from the security agencies. And then you have some other cases. So in that circumstance, for instance, should they have used live ammunition?
You see, sometimes we keep on this blame game. The blame game seems to be our.
No, just asking questions.
Excuse me, I'm going to answer a question, but I want to kind of lay a foundation. You see, the police officer who is sent to a riot situation is armed with an instrument of operation. And when the time arises for him to use it, he has to use that. He has to use what he has. You don't manufacture rubber bullets or whatever. It is what is given. It is what the government has provided for him to work, that he will use to do his work. So you don't blame the policeman. Like I said, the police is a victim of a defective system. Is the police is using what is given. For instance, if you have a farmer, I come from a grand society, we plant cocoa and other things. Maybe you have a machete to clear the grass. The man will use a machete to clear the grass. You're not going to use a stick.
But we are made to understand.
So
I just want to quickly follow up on that, Mr. Alobi. We're made to believe, or we're made to understand, that when the police shoots in a civil situation like that, you shoot to maim, not shoot to kill.
Of course, it is shoot to maim, and it's when there's a riot, you declare that all persons assembled here according to disperse peacefully. When they refuse to disperse fully and they remain riotous, the law allows you to use firearms. And if your action, let me tell you, the Constitution even provides, if those people's action, it becomes a threat to life, and there's no way you can save that those who have been threatened, the law allows you to use firearms to maim. But again, when the rioters become so violent and destructive, of course, or want to kill or cause mayhem or arson, the law allows you, the Constitution allows you to use firearms.
Let me just say this quickly. You see, my colleague, you were talking about democracy.
Yeah.
There are certain vocabularies you don't use. People are demonstrating, and you are calling them rioters. But in any case, if you have a professional police force, it is government that will not tell you what to use. If you are facing people who are demonstrating, they don't have weapons, they don't have arms, and because they don't have weapons, they don't have arms, it is professionally wrong for you to carry bullets that can kill to confront those people. But let me give you an example of how absurd sometimes police and security reaction can be. The last time when the Islamic movement protested here, and a police officer was killed, unfortunately. We are told that this police officer was facing the demonstrators and trying to appeal to them. Just wait. That is what we are told. But the shot that killed this police officer came from the back. And because the shot came from the back, it means that it couldn't have been people whom he was facing that shot him. So two things would happen. Two things can explain that. It's either the police killed him, their colleague, or if they didn't kill their colleague, it means that the Islamic movement were also dressed as policemen and stood behind him and shot him. The only way a responsible government and police force can clear that type of doubts in the minds of people is to have an inquiry, is to have a coroner's report, to determine the circumstances of death so that it becomes very clear to everybody. Up to now, there is no such report in the public domain. And because there is no such report, we are first with this idea of coming to the conclusion that we have an incompetent and unprofessional police force. And 60 years after independence, to have this type of police force in this country is an embarrassment. It's a national embarrassment, and we must face it. But I want to say another point, which is also important. What the UN Rapporteur's report is saying is that both the military and the police, when they intervene, their intervention tactics and what they do escalate some of these challenges.
Okay,
Prof said that the Nigerian police is incompetent and unprofessional. That I want to say unequivocally.
No, he said what breeze some of those responses.
He said Nigerian police is incompetent and unprofessional. Let me tell you, Nigerian police force, outside the issues of this country, have always excelled among other international police forces. We've always done well. In fact, I happened to be in charge of federal operations for 5 years. I was responsible for the deployment of police officers in international peace operations and so forth. You see, the social milieu, the environment in which we are, is so antagonistic to the police. That mentality, police is government agencies, police is this, that. It is when we're now trying to reinvent our thinking and see the police is there to protect us. The citizens are the prime beneficiary of a safe and secure environment. Those policemen, like for instance, this incident is cited, with the Commissioner of Police Operations was murdered during that riot in Abuja. Okay, it said that this rioters, sometimes they shouldn't be called rioters. They went to National Assembly. Look at the cars they burnt. Look at the arson they committed. And yet they were said to be, So the police is there to protect life and property, to maintain law and order, and ensure that the society is safe and secure. Nigerian police force officers and men are very competent, well trained, they have the capacity, but the point is that they are handicapped by so many factors in terms of...
Yeah, but concerning what he raised specifically about the policeman who was killed during the
that is just
protest.
based on, I think that
No, he was
it's a
saying
flawed
that...
assumption. It's
no,
a flawed assumption.
Which one is false assumption?
I said flawed, in the sense that he's saying that maybe somebody shot from behind, and they shot from behind, and then maybe it's a policeman, or maybe the shade man.
How do we know it's false if there's no commission inquiry?
It's a fault. It's flawed in the sense that it has not been proved. It has not been proved. I think it's flawed. It's faulty, in the sense that...
But what he's saying is that we don't have any information as to whether it's being investigated, what is the status of the investigation. The public don't know.
You see, the point is that you don't, like you said, you don't rush investigation. Investigation is painstaking. There are a lot of things that need to be unraveled, to be brought out. That, like in terms of, I talk about there's going to be investigation in terms of autopsy, in terms of what happened, and so forth. And when as a need arises, the principle of they need to know. They will make known. Maybe.
So, Mr. Alobe, maybe I don't understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Or maybe
I can
there
explain
is a
better.
misunderstanding. Let me bring this to you. So on the one hand, it's a situation where we have a policeman killed.
Yes.
And we do not know whether it was from the rioters or from behind.
It is still an investigation.
On the one hand, that's on the one hand. On the other hand, is the fact that that singular action, where the police force or policemen do not know how one of them got killed, okay, how will they be encouraged to go out and risk their lives when they don't know that their lives are going to be safe, or even if they lose their lives, to be accounted for? Because I think that's one of the issues that
what I'm saying, that matter is being investigated. All such cases, criminal cases, are being investigated. That is murder. It's being investigated. And at the end of the investigation, their findings will show who did what, and then if evidence, if whosoever is implicated.
So on what basis then do you say it is flawed?
No, he's saying that he wasn't shot by the Shade members. That's what he's saying, that it was a policeman, maybe a police from behind, or maybe a Shade man was in uniform. It's not possible that it should be uniform.
I'm not sure that's what I heard.
But that's what he said.
Was that what you said?
No, I didn't say that. I said the fellow who was shot was addressing the demonstrators.
Yes, we're appealing to them.
That means that the demonstrators were in his front.
And listening to him.
But the bullet that killed him came from behind. And if that bullet came from behind, it can only be for two reasons: that his colleagues shot him from behind, or that members of the Islamic movement camouflaged as police people and shot him from behind. And the only way you can unravel this is through an inquiry. But we know that there's no inquiry. But of course, you are using the standard police language. This thing is being investigated. How do you investigate the murder or the killing of a police officer several months after the issue, and then no person is talking about progress which is being made? But it's not just about that. It is also about every single issue involving arbitrary killings in this country, either by the police or by the army. And this point has been made. And that is why what Garba Shehu said, really, I'm not sure whether he even read this report before making that statement.
All right,
I'm
we'll
come to that. Really not sure.
You see, in the rioter situation, rioters or protesters
These are not rioters. They are demonstrators.
It is kind of semantics.
No, it's not semantics.
When you come out to say, I don't want this.
You are still using colonial language to describe people who are demonstrating.
I don't want this, what are you doing?
They are demonstrating.
What difference between demonstration and rioting?
They are demonstrating. They are not rioters.
You are demonstrating for a purpose and rioting for a purpose. Now, okay, let's say demonstration, for instance. If they are protesters.
And they are not armed.
They just come and they
are not armed.
Let me finish. They don't just come and line up like in a parade. They are scattered. They are scattered because they want to take control everywhere. They don't not just say they are only in front of the police officer who was appealing to them. A police officer who now came to appeal to them, using persuasion to appeal to them. He ended up being killed.
From behind.
No, excuse me. What I'm saying, in a rioter situation, whatever situation where people are rioting or demonstrating, they don't just come and queue up in front of they spread. They spread like ants. You know, so and in that case, that the bullet can come from any direction, one of them.
So the
you
mindset
cannot,
of the police, the instruction they have, the orientation is that approach.
no. What I'm saying that the deputy commissioner was appealing to them using persuasion approach to plan for them to maintain peace, and it ended up being murdered. He is saying that that officer was not murdered by the shade, that either because he was shot
No,
from
he
behind.
says, how do we know what actually transpired if we don't have a commission of inquiry to ascertain or let the public know what exactly
let me
happened?
tell you, this is a criminal offense. This is murder. Murder cases are normally being investigated by the people under the law. The law provides the police to investigate, and they're carrying out investigation. At the end of the investigation, anybody who found culpable will be prosecuted in court.
Is there an inquiry going on now?
An investigation, when you talk about an inquiry, you know, administrative inquiry is just a fact-finding. That fact-finding, and then that evidence may not be admissible in court.
Okay. Can you confirm that there's an investigation going on?
Of course, why not? If not, that can the deputy commissioner be killed and no investigation? That would be absurd. To be absurd.
Are you assuming that
I'm not assuming,
it's a
I'm very
normal thing, or you have information that indeed it's been
I
investigated?
am very, very sure that the matter is being investigated. Even if a recruit constable is being killed while he's still in training, police will investigate. What more, a deputy commissioner of police.
In order to build the confidence of the public
Yeah.
to our security agencies, in this case the police,
Yeah.
what is the thinking of the police force in terms of when such investigation is going on, they maybe occasionally give the public information about what is going on with their investigation, as we see happen in other crimes?
Yeah, I agree with you that the need to know principle is there. But you see, you cannot just come and start giving people the public information that is not very accurate. You need to have a detailed investigation. You need, like I said earlier, we have preliminary investigation and detailed investigation. I'm sure they want to conclude the investigation. So when they come out with the facts, when the people are charged to court, they probably would know that these people have been charged to court. But the matter is still under investigation. And again, it's the investigation. Not all cases are detected. Even in the US, in the UK, all the developed countries, some investigations are not being detected. But through taking investigation, such cases will be unraveled and they'll be detected. But that time is gone. Like I said, you don't rush investigation. If you rush investigation, you miscarry justice.
Okay, Prof, one of the things that and you made reference to it the other time in the UN rapporteur's report about the Human Rights Commission in Nigeria. According to that report, it says they are doing important work. Part of that important work is the recommendation they made about community policing, local state policing, and local government policing. Do you see that, helping if it comes on stream, if and when it comes on stream? Do you see that helping to stave the rate of insecurity we have, largely, or how?
Well, at a point it will, but here again we have to be very, very careful, because part of the police challenge in this country is that because the police as an institution is not very strong, they are normally manipulated from the center. And that is the fear of people in the states. The challenge is that if you don't have a very strong professional police force at the center and politicians are manipulating them at the center, even if you have community policing, politicians would still manipulate them at the state.
You say the police is not strong.
Yeah, they are not. If they were strong, there are a lot of things professionally. A police chief will look a president in the eye, will look a minister in the eye and say, this cannot be done.
No, but in our own circumstances here,
Yes.
isn't it entirely different? Because look at how the police is appointed. If we don't deal with how the police IGP is appointed, how can they look the appointer in the eye and say that?
Well, people who are professionally minded, even if, however they are appointed, once they are appointed, because they are professionals, they will have to tell whoever has made the appointment that, look, you have to allow me to professionally run the police force. People have to be that competent, and people have to be that patriotic enough to do that. And this is also true of the army. No matter how they are appointed, they should be able to say that, look, now that I have been appointed, the conditions under which I will work are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you don't agree, probably I will not do the job. If somebody does that, two people do that, I think the people who are trying to remote control the security agencies would be more careful.
Mr. Lobby.
Yeah, you see, the issue of tenure of the IG is very important. Like, I also seem to quote...
Speak to the one where he said that the police is not strong.
The police, I don't know what he said strong. I don't know what context he's talking about. Is it in terms of might, in terms of strength, or in terms of capacity? Nigerian police force has a capacity to, and they've been doing very well. We should know. You see, look at the country. This country is so wide in terms of landscape.
Probably I can explain this. I can explain this to allow you to say something.
Okay.
First, numerically, the Nigerian police doesn't have sufficient numbers to police this country. Okay. Numerically, they don't. You have alluded to the fact that they have equipment challenges.
Yeah.
And of course, in addition to equipment challenges, we know that their intelligence capabilities are not good enough. If they were good enough, most of these things that are happening, they will have a way of tracking them even before they happen. So there are challenges, there are gaps in terms of competencies, there are gaps in terms of skills, there are gaps in terms of numbers, there are gaps in terms of what the police can do and the route, professional route, in terms of good practice. They have issues.
Okay, let me say that we should not always dwell on blame. Let us build on our strength. There's no perfect institution in this world, no perfect security institution in this world, and no crime-free society in this world. The police, in terms of numerical strength, I know they are handicapped, in terms of equipment, they are handicapped, funding, they are handicapped, but they are in terms of professionalism, the police, they are doing very, very well. They have always excelled. Outside, even in developed countries, when they go when they compete with their counterparts all over other parts of the country. So the police, in spite of their challenges, they are doing, but look at so many cases they have been detecting. Look at the armed robberies,
so how do you think the police can be better strengthened?
They can be better strengthened.
Perhaps in terms of, also add in terms of you're going to talk about the tenure and appointment of the IGP as we wind down.
The police can be strengthened in many ways. One, the manpower. Two, for good funding and capacity building, training and capacity building. And then public support and cooperation and other equipment. Today, criminality and policing and security is technologically driven. We need technology, drones, CCTV, and so forth. We need this technology to drive it. That's why I want to appeal to. I'm happy that Mr. President has assented to the Police Trust Fund Bill. That is a milestone contribution to internal security. But the funny fact is that I'm told that that act is going to, the fund is going to last for just 6 years. If it's only 6 years, then what are we going to bequeath to our next generation?
Let's find out what your comment. You were going to say something about the appointment of the IGP.
Yeah, the appointment of the IGP should not be left to the whims and caprices of the Mr. President. It should be certainly put in law. How many years? Like other, like for instance, like other institutions, they are appointed for 5 years tenure, 3 years, 4 years tenure. But the IG tenure is not provided by the law. Okay. I think that should be provided, the IG's tenure, to secure him, to give him that confidence, where he can stand up and assert his position as the IG. The tenure should be determined at least 4 years tenure or 5 years tenure.
All right, we have to end at that point. We've been speaking with Zacchaeus Gundu, who is a professor of archaeology at the Ahmadu Bello University in Zaria, as well as Mr. Lawrence Olubi, former commissioner of police here in the FCT. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on this morning.